My story dates back to 2021, about 2.5 years ago. I'm here to share this anonymously, and it's not about my spouse and me. Our marriage has been happy for 14 years. Instead, this unfortunate incident involves my mother, a 59-year-old woman, and what she did to my father, who is 63 years old. So it's not only young women who have affairs. Sometimes older women are involved too. My parents had a joyful marriage that lasted over 38 years, until everything changed last Thursday. Around 3 years ago, my parents retired to Arizona. They purchased a lovely riverside home and a new diesel truck with a camper. They spend their time in Arizona from October to April, and the rest of the year, they embark on adventures, often traveling to cooler places like the mountains or the West Coast. They also spend around 4 to 6 weeks with my family in the high-elevation region of Utah. My husband has arranged complete RV hookups for them on our 16-acre property, including electricity, water, and septic connections. We thoroughly enjoy their company, and our kids love spending time with them too. Likewise, we love visiting their Arizona home. It's always a thrilling experience, especially with their boat and jet skis. We're even willing to go in the midsummer heat for the excitement. My brother and his family, who reside in Georgia, also make it a point to visit my parents at least once a year. Although they can't come as often as we do, they still make the effort. Until recent happenings, I could confidently state that my mom and dad had a perfect marriage. Both of my parents served as role models for my brother and me, and we built our own families based on the values they taught us. So to give you a clear picture, our family life was about as ideal as it gets according to the American dream standards. Now let me explain how things took a turn. My parents were residents of a wonderful community in Arizona. Almost everyone there was friendly, except for this one woman. There was something about her that bothered me, but I couldn't quite pinpoint it. She just didn't sit right with me. For the sake of this story, we'll call her Josephine. Josephine, a 64-year-old divorcee who enjoys socializing and partying, was quite loud and in your face. Surprisingly, my mom hit it off with Josephine, and they developed a close friendship, a definite warning sign, considering my mom isn't usually into parties and only drinks occasionally. Several of my mom's friends also formed bonds with Josephine. Despite her loud personality, they seemed to enjoy her company. On multiple occasions, I voiced my suspicions about Josephine to my mom, but she shrugged them off, assuring me that Josephine was harmless and had a heart of gold. This is where things began to take a negative turn. A few months ago, Josephine purchased a boat with some guidance from my dad, who also helped her learn how to operate it. Last Tuesday, around 6 p.m., my mom, Josephine, and another friend, whom I'll refer to as Jenny, decided to have happy hour drinks together. They took Josephine's boat to a local river bar. That's the second red flag. Their plan was to relax by the water, have a couple of drinks, and chat for a few hours. On that night, my dad shared with me that around 8 o'clock, Mom gave him a call. She mentioned that they were extending their outing for another hour. Apparently, they had run into a friend of Josephine's and were heading to this person's house by the river for a bit. This raised another red flag, as Mom was prolonging her time out. Plus, the identity of this friend was unknown. Nevertheless, Dad didn't seem worried, and Mom got back home shortly after 9. Everything seemed fine. Wednesday came and went without any unusual incidents. However, on Thursday, the 3 ladies planned to return to the bar for happy hour drinks on the patio. This marked the 4th red flag. As I mentioned before, Mom wasn't typically a drinker. Yet within a week, she had gone out twice for happy hour, enjoying drinks and socializing. This abrupt change in behavior was a significant cause for concern. On that evening, my dad and Jenny's husband had plans to work on their cars, so the fact that the ladies were going out wasn't a concern. They left on the boat around 6:30 p.m. with the intention to be back by 9 p.m. at the latest. Around 8 p.m., after Dad and Jenny's husband had finished their car work, Dad returned home, took a shower, and noticed he had a missed call from Mom. Curious, he dialed her number to return the call. Mom explained that Josephine and Jenny wanted to stay out longer, but she wanted to head home. Agreeing to pick her up, Dad drove to the bar and brought her back home. During the short ride, Mom appeared normal, but looking back, Dad noted that he did most of the talking while Mom listened. Upon reaching home, Mom knelt in front of Dad and embraced his legs, her head against his stomach. Initially, Dad thought she might be getting playful for intimate time, but he soon realized she was crying. He lifted her up, held her, and asked her what was wrong. That's when Mom confessed to Dad that she had been unfaithful. This confession caught him off guard, and he questioned her with a surprised, "Come again?" The second confirmation. After hearing Mom's confession, Dad was utterly shocked and just held her while she clung to him, crying heavily. Can you believe it? They had spent 38 years married, a grand total of 40 years together, and their marriage had been flawless. And now she was admitting to cheating on him. He must have been completely stunned. Slowly, reality sank in, and he suggested she take a shower and that they would talk things through in the morning. But Mom wouldn't let go. She held on to him. He guided her to the bathroom where she showered. When she emerged, he informed her that she should sleep in a different bedroom. Although she pleaded for him to stay in the same bed, he stood his ground and calmly informed her that they would address the situation in the morning. Throughout the night, Mom struggled to find sleep, repeatedly coming to the bedroom door to request a conversation with Dad. He continued to encourage her to rest, promising that they would discuss everything when morning came. Eventually, around 5:30 a.m., she managed to fall asleep, only to wake up at 8 a.m. and discover that Dad and his camper were gone. Little did she know, he had moved all his personal belongings into the camper overnight, symbolizing his choice to separate from her. He had reached a point where he was done with her, a strong reaction to her unfaithfulness. Despite their 4 decades of history together, Dad was handling the situation with expertise. He skillfully moved his belongings without disturbing Mom. Their bedroom has a sliding door leading to the patio, which allowed him to discreetly take his clothes and personal items out through the back door, load them into the camper, and leave. Mom began calling him, but he didn't answer at first. Eventually, he sent her a text message that declared their official separation as of 6 a.m. on April 9th, which was the same morning. At this moment, Mom completely fell apart. She called Dad again, and this time he picked up. He calmly reiterated what he had texted her. He informed Mom that he was filing for divorce, and that until the divorce was finalized, he would be living in the camper. Mom pleaded with him to talk and give her a chance to explain, but he showed no interest. He firmly stated that she would hear from his lawyer once he had one. Before ending the call, Dad mentioned that he had reached out to Jenny's husband. Remember, Jenny was the friend who joined Mom and Josephine for the outing. He informed Jenny's husband about what had transpired with Mom. I'm not exactly sure how, but Jenny's husband discovered her own cheating and locked her out of their house. As a result, Jenny is currently staying with Josephine while they work out their issues. After speaking with Mom, Dad contacted my brother and me to deliver the news. We were taken aback, initially assuming it was a prank. When the reality of the situation sank in, I found myself shedding tears. Since then, Mom has been emotionally devastated. Throughout the past week, she's been driving to every campground in the area, searching for Dad. She's covered more than 1,800 miles. While my brother and I are aware of Dad's whereabouts, we've made a promise to not share this information with her. Both my brother and I fully support Dad in this ordeal and want to honor his wishes as the one wronged in this situation. However, we're deeply concerned about Mom's well-being. She's not eating or sleeping, driving around frantically in her attempts to locate Dad. We're afraid she might get into an accident, experience a heart attack, or even pose a danger to herself, given her repeated statements about not wanting to go on without Dad. Now we're grappling with the dilemma. Should my brother and I disclose Dad's location to alleviate Mom's distress? My stance is that we shouldn't, as Dad explicitly requested his privacy, and sharing his location could erode his trust in us. We should respect his plea for privacy. We could inform Mom of Dad's location, with the assurance that she wouldn't approach him. This might offer her some solace. Yet there's a risk of harming our rapport with Dad if he discovers it. Our priority is to stand by Dad, who was taken by surprise due to his wife's actions, and to uphold his trust. Our obligation is to honor Dad's wish while extending our support to him. I understand that we should fully back Dad, as Mom's actions led to this situation, and she must now confront the repercussions. I'm just sharing my thoughts. What course of action should we take? Please help me out. A concerned daughter? Update? I'm providing an update, just a day later. Yesterday evening, Mom was in the St. George area searching for Dad. For those unfamiliar, St. George is in southwest Utah. I convinced Mom to drive up to our house and stay with us for a few nights. She agreed and is expected to arrive this afternoon. I'll give you all more information later. Meanwhile, please continue to share your advice. I truly appreciate it. The suggestions provided so far have been valuable to me. Over the past 10 days, there has been a significant change in the situation. Mom came to my house looking visibly distressed and mentioned feeling unwell. We had a brief conversation, everyone greeted her, and then we let her rest in one of the bedrooms. However, an hour later, my youngest daughter started screaming for me to come to the bedroom. When I arrived, I found my mom bent over in pain, clutching her lower abdomen and pelvic area. She was immobilized. So my husband carried her to the car and we rushed her to the emergency room. She was in extreme pain, sweating profusely, and seemed to have a high fever. While at the hospital, the doctor suspected some kind of infection, possibly a urinary tract infection, and ordered tests. They also provided treatment for her severe dehydration. It turned out that Mom had contracted a sexually transmitted disease from the man she had been involved with. Fortunately, it was one that could be cured with antibiotics. The doctor suggested that Mom stay overnight in the hospital until her fever went down and her overall condition improved. However, even after 48 hours, there was no noticeable change. This is when the situation took a turn for the worse. The doctor mentioned the possibility of her having a drug-resistant form of the STD that has been spreading in recent years. So they put her on a combination of powerful antibiotics. After 5 days, her fever finally broke, and her condition became stable. She was discharged from the hospital yesterday. Throughout her hospital stay, Mom repeatedly inquired about Dad. She wanted to know if he had reached out to check on her. I told her the truth, that he hadn't made any calls, not even once, but that I was providing him with daily updates. My family and I visited her multiple times every day to ensure she wasn't alone for extended periods. However, this caused her to become extremely saddened. Now back at our home, Mom appears to be recovering physically. She has been sending numerous texts and making frequent calls to Dad since her arrival. Out of frustration, she expressed, "After being together for 40 years, you'd think he'd at least communicate with me." Hearing this, I was so angry that I lost control and said, "If you hadn't messed around, none of this would have happened. This is all your fault. You've torn our family apart." Although this statement held undeniable truth, I immediately regretted saying it and apologized to her. She broke down and started crying, clinging to me. We talked for more than 2 hours, and she finally opened up. It turns out that the man she had been involved with was a 28-year-old construction worker who was working on a project in the area. This guy was pursuing a relationship with a 59-year-old married woman? What a disrespectful person. He, along with 2 friends, had rented a trailer by the river for 6 months instead of staying in a hotel. Now comes the disturbing part. According to Mom, she had only spoken to the guy on Tuesday, while Josephine and Jenny were getting involved with the other 2 guys. Yes, you heard that correctly. However, when she met up with him again on Thursday, she found herself so enticed by his advances that she gave in to her desires and became intimate with him. Hearing this disgusted me. It's incredibly unsettling, something I never could have imagined, even in my most outrageous thoughts, that my own mom would engage in such behavior. I continued to push the topic, even though Mom grew increasingly uncomfortable. She clearly didn't want to discuss it any further, but I insisted. I kept asking how she could betray Daddy like that, and all she could manage to say was that she honestly didn't know. She quickly regretted her actions as soon as things started between her and the guy. Reflecting on it and sharing this with you just gives me a really queasy feeling. I'm so thankful she confessed to Dad. Poor Dad. Imagine if she hadn't and ended up passing the STD to my unsuspecting sweet dad. That would have been a truly awful turn of events. A devastating tragedy even. Mom still holds on to the belief that Dad will come back. However, he's resolute in his decision, and he's not known for changing his mind. Mom plans to leave on Saturday to resume her search for Dad. She intends to visit all the campsites in the Southwest, unaware of what awaits her on Friday. There's something I know that she doesn't, but I can't reveal it to her. Listen to this. Dad is actually planning to serve Mom with divorce papers at my house. He wants her to have family around when he does it, to ensure she has support. Friday is going to be a really difficult day. A tough one. I feel a bit guilty knowing what's coming, but I owe it to Dad to assist him with this. Also, I need to be there for Mom when she inevitably breaks down. I'll provide an update if anything significant occurs. For now, let's hope for the best. Signed, a deeply concerned daughter. Update. A significant period of time has gone by since my previous update. To be precise, it's been over 13 months. We're now in June of 2022, and there have been inquiries about my parents' situation. I hadn't been using this website for the past year, but after reviewing the comments on my last post yesterday, I noticed the requests for a new update. Here it is. Mom and Dad are officially divorced, a fact that I still struggle to accept, along with everything that has unfolded in their lives since then. Dad couldn't bring himself to forgive Mom for her affair. He's a resilient man, not someone who would easily overlook such a breach of trust. He chose to have no contact with Mom. In fact, the only time he encountered her after leaving in the camper was during the divorce proceedings. While I understand his emotions, I was surprised by how swiftly he cut ties with Mom. Nevertheless, he ensured that the financial division was conducted fairly. Mom was treated more than fairly. He simply wanted to exit the marriage and move on from her. Though it's painful for me to express, I can empathize with his feelings of betrayal and lack of respect. Mom currently resides in a small apartment near us. As mentioned before, she used to own a beautiful house by the river in Arizona, complete with boats, jet skis, and a camper. She and Dad would travel across the country during summers, exploring coastlines and mountains. Yet now she lives in a town close to her daughter, in a modest apartment. I can only imagine the remorse she must feel, having sacrificed so much for a fleeting moment of excitement, a fleeting happy hour, in exchange for something even more damaging. I'll digress here because I want to underscore this aspect. From Dad's perspective, the divorce was swift and decisive, unlike Mom's experience. Following the divorce, Mom's health quickly declined. She was hospitalized due to bronchitis, dehydration, malnutrition, and severe depression. Her hospital stay lasted 3 days, during which she received treatment and was prescribed medication for her depression and anxiety. The medication seemed to have a positive effect on stabilizing her mental state, and at least provided some relief. Sadly, she also received a diagnosis of a potential case of lupus, likely triggered by the stress of the divorce and the loss of my father. The doctor explained that intense stress can compromise the immune system and worsen conditions similar to lupus. Given her struggles with overcoming the STD and bacterial bronchitis, it's evident that her immune system is in a weakened condition. The doctor provided Mom with specific advice on how to boost her immune system and manage her stress. She needs to actively focus on reducing stress and maintaining control over her stress levels. Over the past 6 months, there has been improvement. But she's not the same strong and composed woman she used to be. Mom used to exude strength and confidence, but now she appears fragile, shattered, and devoid of her former energy. A few months back, I managed to secure a job for her at a craft superstore where my friend works as a manager. She's been performing exceptionally well and has received praise as an outstanding employee. Hopefully, this job will help her find a sense of purpose. However, the reality remains somber. She has lost the luxuries she once enjoyed, is taking prescription medication. Stress is actively taking a toll on her while she fights to control her emotions. And once again, she lives in a small apartment near me. At 59, she's returned to working in retail. Her life has undergone profound changes, to say the least. But let's shift the focus from my mom. Regarding Dad, he's certainly making the most of his time. He appears to be relishing his newfound freedom as a wanderer, traveling wherever he desires in his camper. He has a deep fondness for the outdoors and exploring new places. In the last half year, he's begun dating a woman, and it seems their relationship is becoming more serious. Yet, I advise him to be cautious due to his recent divorce from a 40-year marriage with Mom. I've met her multiple times, and she's very pleasant and treats my dad with kindness. I don't want to sound negative, but I'm unsure how to express it without it sounding ironic. The thing is, she's significantly younger. They bond over their shared interest in travel, as she's a YouTube vlogger who explores different places. Over the past 4 months, Dad and she have been traveling all around the country, camping and enjoying each other's company. While she hasn't featured Dad on her YouTube channel, she has mentioned him in several of her videos. It's clear they have a strong connection, and Dad personally told me that he's happier now than ever. Despite his happiness, he's made it clear to my brother and me that he has no intentions of marrying again. Interestingly, his girlfriend feels the same way. She had a previous marriage that didn't work out, and she's not keen on going through that again. Since they both love nature and outdoor activities, they seem like a perfect match. I think I've included all the details. I'd like to extend my gratitude to everyone who provided guidance and advice on here. Your input has been immensely valuable throughout this challenging period. Lastly, I want to show my appreciation for the concern about my family's situation and for the considerate responses you shared. Best regards, a caring and optimistic daughter. I'm a 40-year-old guy and my wife Miley is 38. We got married 5 years ago, but our love story started at my friend Noel's wedding. I was a groomsman and Miley was one of the bridesmaids on that special day. During the ceremony, Miley's confident presence caught my eye as she elegantly wore a beautiful green maxi dress. I was so captivated by her that I ended up clumsily spilling cocktails on myself while looking at her. This comical mishap made Miley notice me, and we both burst into laughter. While laughing, she kindly offered to help me clean up the mess on my shirt. It was clear that I was attracted to her, even though my shyness held me back from making a move. But Miley, with her easygoing personality and stunning looks, took the initiative and started talking to me. Her charm and beauty were irresistible. Even though I used to doubt love at first sight, meeting Miley erased all my skepticism the moment our eyes met. I just knew she was the one for me as our relationship blossomed after Noel's wedding. Miley then invited me to meet her parents. During that time, our commitment grew deeper, and we realized we wanted to spend our lives together. However, our journey hit a bump when Miley's dad expressed his concerns about our relationship. He strongly wanted his daughter to marry a wealthy businessman, which posed a challenge for our relationship. When I visited their home, I was surprised when Miley's father had the nerve to belittle me, calling me an average guy. He even insulted my financial situation, showing disapproval of his daughter marrying someone he considered to have a low income. It was painful as he compared my earnings to Miley's beauty, like she was a Hollywood actress. Even though I worked as a brand manager at a respected marketing agency and earned a decent income, his shallow comments angered me. I stood my ground, expressing my disappointment and reminding him that true value goes beyond money. Despite his self-centered behavior, Miley handled the situation well, showing her loyalty by supporting me and confronting her father. She chose to leave her parents' home and start a new chapter with me. Just a week later, we had a small ceremony to celebrate our marriage and exchanged vows, which made us very happy. Having such an understanding and supportive partner like my wife brought me immense joy, especially since Miley intentionally invited only her mother, excluding her father from the guest list. Our first year of marriage was filled with happiness and satisfaction. However, as time went on, I started noticing certain behaviors in Miley that resembled those of her father. Growing up, her parents had given her a lot of love, which led to her feeling entitled. She often demanded to be treated like royalty and expected me to follow her wishes without question. Any disagreement I had was dismissed as just an argument, and she expected me to obey her without hesitation. While shopping for furniture for our home, I realized that Miley didn't value my opinions. She consistently ignored my suggestions. When I mentioned that I preferred white sofas over green ones, she blew it out of proportion and got upset. Her tendency to get angry and throw fits over small things became clear. Once, I accidentally bought chocolate ice cream instead of her favorite blueberry flavor, and she burst into tears. It was clear she wasn't used to hearing the word no. Without a job or career, she spent most of her time hanging out with friends and shopping. I realized that Miley had inherited her father's traits, but I wasn't willing to give in or blindly follow her demands. I told her that as a married couple, I had the right to express my opinions, and I expected her to act maturely if we wanted to have a successful marriage. I communicated that lacking mutual understanding and respect would make our marriage unworkable. Miley was surprised by my statement as she had never heard the word no before. Overwhelmed with emotions, she cried and sincerely promised to change her ways. Even though it was unfamiliar territory for her, she was committed to trying earnestly due to her deep love for me. Acknowledging her father's influence on her spoiled behavior, I chose to give her a chance for personal growth, driven by my love for her. Miley began taking gradual steps to show her commitment to patience and kindness toward me. She got a part-time job and enrolled in a course to contribute to our lives responsibly. Rather than solely socializing with friends, she made an effort to join me when we met our mutual friends, Noah and his wife Emily. While Emily had been Miley's friend since childhood, she contrasted significantly in personality and demeanor. Emily presented herself as composed, mature, and intelligent, creating a sharp distinction from Miley's previous behavior. As Noah was my closest friend, we frequently collaborated on various business ideas. This led to us visiting each other's homes often. With our strong dedication and hard work, Noah and I successfully launched our product, which resulted in significant financial gains. We went from living in cramped apartments to roomy, cozy houses, making a big improvement in our living situation. When my father-in-law heard about my achievements, he started seeing me in a better light and began casually calling me. At first, I was hesitant to interact with him, but after Emily and Noah encouraged me to forgive the past and move forward, I chose to pick up his calls. Over time, I grew more comfortable with the idea and invited my in-laws to our new home. When my father-in-law accepted the invitation and saw our luxurious house, he was surprised by how well things were going for me, as he never expected my success. His mistreatment and bad behavior actually motivated me to work hard for success. However, he kept pushing both Miley and me to have kids despite our own feelings and choices. Ironically, the same person who initially didn't want us to be together now suddenly wanted us to have children, realizing he was intruding in our lives. I kept a reasonable distance from him. However, just last Christmas, Miley's parents strongly suggested that we throw a big dinner at our house and include a wide range of guests. In response, I invited Noah's family, my own parents, and my brothers, creating a sense of togetherness and celebration. Miley's parents also wanted me to invite their friends and relatives to the Christmas dinner, as they hadn't been present at our wedding. It became clear that they weren't only interested in introducing me to their acquaintances, but also in showing off their connections and our fancy house and wealth. Despite what they wanted, I chose to keep the guest list smaller for a more intimate gathering. However, Miley did invite a few of her parents' friends and relatives to the Christmas dinner party. My parents and Noah's family came dressed nicely and appropriately for the occasion. I was surprised, though, when Miley's family arrived in very formal and extravagant outfits that seemed more suited for a wedding than a casual get-together. To my astonishment, some of my in-laws' friends and relatives acted as if they were in their own home, dancing and using our space without any restraint. Miley wore a short black dress, and the lively atmosphere turned our house into a bustling party that felt more like a bar than a traditional Christmas dinner. This strong difference from our usual calm and simple family gatherings made me feel uncomfortable. Seeing how things were going, my parents, who preferred a quieter atmosphere, chose to leave early. They could tell that the gathering was turning into something more like a disco than a traditional Christmas celebration. As the night went on, my father-in-law was busy showing off our house, cars, and stuff to his friends, while their kids joined Miley on the dance floor. Meanwhile, Noah's family and I stayed focused on enjoying our dinner and didn't pay much attention to these unfamiliar guests. After we ate, Noah and Emily decided to leave early since they felt they had done their part for the evening. Feeling really unhappy with how the party was going, I talked to Miley about how frustrated I was and said we needed to wrap it up. Miley understood and told me to go upstairs and rest while she took care of things. With a pounding headache and getting more and more annoyed at Miley, her parents, and their strange friends, I locked myself in my room and tried to find some comfort in sleep. I woke up around 3 a.m. from a bad dream and noticed that Miley wasn't in bed next to me. Curious, I went downstairs to see what was going on. I was shocked and getting angrier when I saw that the whole house was dark, with no lights on. The shocking truth awaited me when I found that the previous guests were still relaxing on the carpets and sofas, seemingly not bothered by the late hour. Discovering this made me even more furious. I got angrier when I couldn't find Miley or her parents in the main living areas, so I started searching in other rooms. Eventually, I found her parents sleeping in our designated guest room. Feeling more worried, I decided to call Miley's phone to see where she was. I heard her ringtone coming from another guest room. Something didn't feel right, so I hung up quickly and carefully went into the room to see what was happening. When I opened the door, I was shocked to see Miley alone in the room with a man I didn't know doing something very inappropriate. I was so angry and couldn't believe it. I grabbed my phone and recorded a video of what I saw. In a burst of anger, I confronted Miley, splashing water on her. She was surprised to see me because she probably thought I was asleep and wouldn't find out until the morning. I punched the guy and kicked him out of my house while yelling and causing a scene. When Miley's parents and the other guests woke up from the commotion, Miley's father explained that there was a misunderstanding and the guy was a friend's son. When Miley cried and begged me for another chance, I told him to be quiet and I slapped her. Yet her father kept trying to explain things away, making the situation seem less serious, and hinting that I was overreacting. His attitude of entitlement became more obvious now that I was wealthy, as he was shocked by the idea of me leaving his daughter. He suggested that we wait until morning to deal with it as a family matter, so we wouldn't cause a scene in front of our guests. I had reached my limit and didn't care about the guests or my unfaithful wife anymore. So I firmly asked everyone to leave my house, even though it was very late at night. After that, I took the necessary steps to end my marriage by sending divorce papers to Miley. The process of finalizing the divorce took months, during which Noah and my other friends supported me. Sadly, my greedy father-in-law tried to manipulate and get money from me. But luckily I had strong evidence of his daughter's unfaithfulness, which helped me. Even though Miley kept asking for another chance, admitting her affairs and feeling sorry, I stayed firm in my decision. She tried to blame her father and thought I would forgive her easily, but I knew she needed to take responsibility for her actions in order to truly grow. Initially, I had given her chances because of her entitled behavior from how she was raised. But her cheating on me was a big betrayal of trust that I can't ignore. Forgiving infidelity is hard for me because I believe it's a choice people make. Miley is an adult and knew what she was doing, so she needs to own up to it. It was clear that Miley had a strained relationship with her parents, partly because of the big difference between the life she had with me and how she grew up. Even though Miley keeps trying to reach out to me, I've made up my mind. There's no chance for us to get back together. I'm happy now. I'm in a relationship with Noah's sister, and I genuinely like how things are. Sometimes being alone is much better than being around people who act greedy and entitled. People like that don't match up with my values and can mess up any sense of peace or getting along. Thanks for sticking around to hear the whole story. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment to let us know what you think about the story.